The oak casket stood at the front of the room, polished to a high shine, its brass handles gleaming under the soft lights of Riverside Funeral Home. I sat in the front row, my black dress still damp from the downpour outside, my eyes fixed on that wooden box that supposedly held my husband of 15 years. David. Gone in an instant. A boating accident off the coast of Maine, they said. 3 days of searching before the Coast Guard called it off. No one could have survived those waters, the officer had told me, his hand heavy on my shoulder. So here I was. Widow. Mourner-in-chief. Recipient of whispered condolences and tight-lipped smiles. The weight of 100 pairs of eyes pressed against my back as Pastor Miller droned on about David's vibrant spirit and lasting legacy. How little they knew. How little I knew. My phone vibrated against my thigh. I almost ignored it. What could possibly matter now? But something made me reach for it. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was fate. The message appeared, and the world stopped spinning. From David, I am still alive. Trust no one. My lungs forgot how to breathe. The phone nearly slipped from my suddenly ice-cold fingers. The screen blurred as I stared at those impossible words. I looked up, scanning the crowd through new eyes. David's accounting colleagues in their somber suits. Our neighbors from Freeport. His Navy friends, faces etched with practiced grief. One of them, perhaps all of them, was lying. The phone buzzed again. Meet me at the old lighthouse on Pemaquid Point tomorrow at midnight. Come alone. Your life depends on it. Pastor Miller's voice faded to background static. The rain hammered harder against the windows. And inside my chest, my heart hammered with it, a desperate rhythm of fear and impossible hope. My husband was dead. I was at his funeral. Yet somewhere out there, he was waiting for me. If you've ever felt that moment when everything you believed crumbles beneath you, pull up a chair and subscribe. Some stories change with every telling, and this one's just beginning. 15 years together, and I'd memorized his morning routine. David Patterson, coffee drinker, numbers wizard, early riser. Every day at 5:30 a.m., his side of the bed would empty, and the rich aroma of dark roast would fill our salt box home on the Maine coast. The early bird gets the numbers, he'd joke, kissing the top of my head as I shuffled into the kitchen. Our cedar-shingled house perched on a rocky bluff overlooking the Atlantic. The horizon stretched endless blue on clear days, a canvas of shifting grays when storms rolled in. We met at college, the accounting major and the art history student, opposites in a campus coffee shop. My coffee spilled across his finance textbook. His laughter instead of anger. 2 gold bands and 5 moves later, we landed in Freeport. My art gallery downtown. His partnership at Coastal Accounting. The rhythm of waves became the backbeat of our marriage. It's the white noise of the gods, David would say, stretching on our deck, eyes toward the horizon. Listen closely enough and you'll hear secrets. Our life appeared perfect. The house we'd renovated ourselves. Weekend dinner parties with friends. Holiday cards that made others envious. But tiny cracks had formed. Hairline fractures in the foundation. 6 months before the accident, David changed. Small things. His phone now face down on tables. Late nights at the office became frequent. Passwords changed on our shared accounts. Just security protocols, he explained, not meeting my eyes. Client confidentiality. The boat came next. A 32-foot cabin cruiser he named Offshore Account. White fiberglass with navy trim. A floating sanctuary he retreated to most weekends. Need to clear my head, he'd say, loading coolers aboard. The numbers follow me everywhere except out there. I never questioned it. Not directly. The boat became a third entity in our marriage, pulling him away with the tide. Have you noticed anything strange about the Reynolds account? I overheard him asking Marcus, his Navy buddy, one evening on our back porch. Their voices dropped when I brought out drinks. "Just shop talk," David assured me, his smile tight around the edges. Our 15th anniversary dinner, 3 weeks before the accident. Candlelight at Marcel's, our favorite restaurant. David's gift, diamond earrings in a velvet box. To my North Star, the card read, "You keep me anchored." His phone buzzed 7 times during dinner. He checked it each time. "Everything okay?" I asked, twirling pasta. "Perfect," he said, slipping the phone away. "Just perfect." Later that night, I woke at 3 a.m. David stood by our bedroom window, phone glowing against his face, whispering. "It has to be soon," he said to someone. "There's no other way." When he noticed me watching, he claimed it was work stress. "Big client audit," he explained. "Go back to sleep." I did. That's what trust does. It allows you to close your eyes when questions remain open. The morning of the accident, David kissed me goodbye. Lingered longer than usual. "I love you," he said, his blue eyes intense. "Remember that, no matter what happens. It's just a day fishing." I laughed. "Catch me something good." He paused at the door. Sometimes we catch things we never expected. For hours later, the Coast Guard called. Debris spotted 2 miles offshore. David's boat. No survivors found. His coffee mug still sat in the sink when they broke the news. The morning paper folded to the crossword he'd started. Half completed, pen marks pressing deep into the page. I traced his handwriting with my fingertips, the last tangible proof of his existence. Clue 17 down, escape route for letters. His answer, boat. If I'd known it was our final morning, would I have noticed more, asked more, or would trust have still closed my eyes to what was coming? The call came at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. Coast Guard Officer Dawson, voice measured against the howl of wind and engines in the background. "Mrs. Patterson, we've located debris matching your husband's vessel approximately 2 miles offshore. We have teams searching the area now." I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles bleached white. "But you haven't found him?" "Not yet, ma'am. The water temperature this time of year is 43 degrees. Survival time is limited." I drove to the Harbor Command post they'd established, a weathered blue trailer with antennas sprouting from its roof. The wind carried salt and diesel fumes. Coast Guard vessels dotted the gray horizon, methodically combing grid patterns through white-capped waves. 3 days, Commander Ellis told me, her face lined with practiced compassion. "That's our protocol for cold water searches." After that, she didn't finish. She didn't need to. They recovered pieces throughout that first endless day. A cushion from the stern. A life vest still in its plastic wrapper. The emergency locator beacon, never activated. The explosion likely happened without warning, Officer Dawson explained as we huddled over nautical charts. Fuel line rupture is our leading theory. That night, alone in our house, I moved from room to room, touching David's things. His coffee mug, his reading glasses, the indentation his head had left on his pillow. The second day brought more wreckage. Larger pieces. The boat's registration number confirmed on a section of hull. A waterlogged duffel bag containing David's wallet, keys, phone. The damage pattern suggests a significant explosion, the investigator noted, showing me photographs I immediately wished I hadn't seen. Blackened fiberglass. Twisted metal. I nodded, numb, while an observation scratched at the edges of my mind. David was meticulous about boat maintenance. Weekly checks of every system. Monthly professional inspections. The photos showed charring concentrated near the engine compartment. Fuel line rupture, they repeated. But David had replaced all fuel lines just 6 weeks earlier. Back home, I opened his desk drawer, seeking comfort in the familiar. Instead, I found a receipt from Cumberland Bank. A safe deposit box I never knew existed, rented 3 months prior. When I called his closest friend, Jason, his voice sounded strained. He never mentioned a safe deposit box, Jason said too quickly. Listen, focus on getting through this. The investigators know what they're doing. On the 3rd day, Commander Ellis called me to the harbor at dawn. Her face told me everything before her words did. Mrs. Patterson, we're transitioning from rescue to recovery operations. Official language for, your husband is dead. They'd found his monogrammed jacket, torn and scorched, floating 30 miles downshore. The current patterns, water temperature, time elapsed. I'm deeply sorry, but survival is no longer possible. I nodded mechanically as she explained about death certificates, about missing, presumed deceased designations, about how sometimes the sea doesn't give back what it takes. The funeral home smelled of lilies and furniture polish. Pastor Miller asked gentle questions about David's life for the eulogy. I answered on autopilot while selecting caskets for a body we didn't have. Navy buddies want to speak, I told him. Marcus, Jason, and Philip. That evening, they came to the house, David's 3 closest friends since Naval Academy days. Quarterly fishing trips. Weekly poker nights. Brothers in all but blood. They brought food. They brought whiskey. They brought stories. But something was wrong. Marcus kept checking his watch every few minutes. Jason, usually the talker, fell silent whenever I mentioned the accident investigation. Philip's eyes darted to the window each time a car passed. What was the last time you all spoke with David? I asked casually, pouring more whiskey. The 3 exchanged glances, microsecond communications I wasn't meant to see. Poker night week before the Marcus offered. But I'd checked David's calendar. Poker night had been canceled last month. He seemed normal to you? Not worried about anything. Jason drained his glass. Completely normal. Except, Philip started, then stopped when Marcus kicked his foot. Except what? I pressed. Except he kept talking about that fishing spot near Pemaquid Point, Philip said carefully. Wanted us all to try it sometime. Pemaquid Point. The lighthouse. The same place the text message directed me to go. As they left, Marcus hugged me too tightly. Whatever happens next, he whispered, his breath hot against my ear, remember David loved you. He did this for you. Did what? I wanted to ask, but he pulled away, face composed into appropriate grief. That night, I lay awake until dawn, the quiet house echoing with questions no one was answering. The funeral reception emptied out after midnight. Well-wishers departed with leftover casseroles and promises to check on me. The house fell silent except for the steady tick of the grandfather clock David had restored our first year in Maine. I sat in the dark living room, staring at my phone. The 2 messages glowed like accusations. I am still alive. Trust no one. Meet me at the old lighthouse on Pemaquid Point tomorrow at midnight. Come alone. Your life depends on it. My thumb hovered over the screen. What if this was cruel manipulation? A hacker? Someone exploiting my grief? But what if it wasn't? I pulled up David's contact. The message history we'd shared for years. Grocery reminders, inside jokes, love notes, now capped with these impossible texts. On our bookshelf stood a framed photo. David and me at Pemaquid Point Lighthouse 3 summers ago, wind tousling our hair, his arm around my waist. His favorite place on the coast. Where the light always guides you home, he'd say. Now it beckoned me toward, what? Truth? Danger? Madness? The doorbell startled me. Rachel, my closest friend, stood on the porch with coffee and concerned eyes. Thought you might need company, she said, stepping inside. It's 1 a.m. and you're sitting in the dark. Grieving people do that. Non-grieving people worry about them. She placed a coffee in my hands. You seem distracted at the reception. More than grief. Like you were somewhere else entirely. Just processing. Processing what? Everything. I clutched my phone tighter. Your knuckles are white, Rachel observed. What's on that phone? Nothing. Try again. A third message arrived. If you don't come, they'll find you next. Rachel caught my flinch. Show me. I hesitated. Trust no one, the message had warned. Even Rachel? My friend for 12 years? It's just arrangements, I lied. Funeral home details. Her eyes narrowed. At 1 a.m.? Death doesn't keep business hours. I remembered David holding me during the midnight panic attack after my gallery was vandalized 3 years ago. I can't fix this for you, he'd said, but I'll stand in the broken glass with you until you find your footing. He'd been my rock, my certainty in uncertain times. But what if those messages were real? What if the man I'd relied on had built our life on quicksand? I need to sleep, I told Rachel. Early meeting with the lawyer tomorrow. Another life forming easily on my tongue. The decision crystallizing with each breath. After Rachel left, I pulled out maps of the peninsula. Pemaquid Point was a 40-minute drive. The lighthouse stood isolated on rocky shores, closed to visitors after sunset. Perfect for a clandestine meeting. Perfect for an ambush. I packed essentials. Flashlight, jacket, pepper spray David had insisted I carry. My fingers brushed against our wedding photo on the nightstand. His eyes crinkled at the corners, that half smile that always melted me. Who were you? I whispered to his image. Really? The clock struck 2 a.m. 22 hours until the meeting. 22 hours to decide whether to trust a ghost or my own sanity. I curled into bed, clutching his pillow that still smelled faintly of his cologne. What terrified me most wasn't the possibility that David might be alive. It was the growing certainty that I had never known my husband at all. The clock on my dashboard read 11:47 p.m. as I killed the engine. The lighthouse loomed ahead, a spectral silhouette against the night sky. Fog rolled in from the Atlantic, swallowing the moonlight in patches, releasing it in others. Waves crashed against the rocky shore below, a rhythmic percussion that couldn't drown out my thundering heartbeat. I gripped the pepper spray in my coat pocket and opened the car door. The air hit me, damp, cold, carrying salt and seaweed scents that usually comforted me. Tonight, they felt like a warning. The lighthouse hadn't operated in years, its beam extinguished when automated navigation made it obsolete. Now it stood as a tourist attraction by day, a lonely sentinel by night. My footsteps crunched on the gravel path. Each step forward felt like a negotiation between hope and reason. No one else was here. The parking lot empty. The visitor center dark. Had I fallen for a cruel joke? Sarah. The voice came from behind me. I whirled, pepper spray raised. A figure emerged from the shadows near the base of the lighthouse. The beam of my flashlight caught him, thinner than I remembered, a beard now covering his jawline, wearing clothes I'd never seen before. But those eyes, I would know those eyes anywhere. David. My voice barely a whisper. He stepped closer, hands raised slightly. It's me.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry for everything. My body couldn't decide whether to run to him or away from him. I stood frozen, flashlight beam trembling on his face. You're dead. I just buried you.
No.
You buried an empty casket. There was an explosion. The Coast Guard. The explosion was real. The death was fake. He glanced over his shoulder. We don't have much time. They could be watching.
Who is they?
What's happening? David moved closer, moonlight catching the exhaustion etched in his face. The accounting firm isn't what you think. It's not what anyone thinks. For 2 years, I've been working undercover with the FBI. The FBI? The absurdity almost made me laugh. You're an accountant. I'm an accountant who noticed patterns. Money moving where it shouldn't. Clients who didn't exist. When I reported it, the FBI recruited me instead of just taking my statement. His words tumbled out rapidly, urgently. The firm launders money for a criminal network. Hundreds of millions. I've been gathering evidence, tracking the flow. Why didn't you tell me? They made it clear, if anyone knew, especially you, your life would be in danger. I couldn't risk it. His voice cracked. Then they discovered I was working with the feds. The boat wasn't an accident. It was meant to kill me. My mind raced, trying to align this narrative with the husband I thought I knew. The midnight phone calls. The changed passwords. The safe deposit box. If they wanted you dead, how are you here? Marcus helped me stage it. He's undercover too. We needed them to believe I died in that explosion while I finished gathering evidence. You let me think you were dead, I said, anger finally breaking through shock. You let me plan a funeral. Grieve you. For what? Your job. To protect you. His eyes glistened. If they knew I survived, you'd be their leverage. They'd hurt you to get to me. Then why contact me now? Why risk it? David reached into his jacket, pulling out a small object that caught the moonlight. A USB drive. This contains everything. Transaction records, client lists, offshore accounts. Enough to bring down the entire operation. He held it out. But I need your help. I can't get to the FBI directly. They're watching all the agents I worked with. But you can take this to Agent Jennifer Morrison at the Portland office. The USB drive sat in his palm, small, ordinary, yet weighted with extraordinary claims. How do I know this is real? My voice strengthened. How do I know you're telling the truth? David's face crumpled. Remember our 10th anniversary? The cabin in Vermont. I nodded slowly. You found a letter in my bag. A job offer from Boston Financial. You never mentioned it, but I saw your face change when you came back from unpacking. I turned it down the next day because I couldn't bear to take you away from your gallery, from the home we built. A detail no one else could know. A private moment between us. Sarah, I've never lied about loving you. Everything else in my life might have been cover, but not that. Never that. He stepped closer, eyes locked on mine. I know I'm asking the impossible. I know I've hurt you. But there are lives at stake. People who will suffer if this evidence doesn't reach the right hands. The USB drive caught the moonlight as he extended it toward me. My fingers hovered, not quite touching it. If I do this, then what? You disappear again? Another funeral in 5 years? Once it's done, once they're arrested, I can come back. Witness protection at first, maybe, but together. I promise. Promises from a man who had orchestrated his own death, who had watched me grieve from the shadows. But those eyes. I knew those eyes. My fingers closed around the drive. Cold metal against warm skin. Tell me one thing, I demanded. Did you ever consider just walking away? Choosing me over all of this? He looked away. Answer enough. Agent Jennifer Morrison, he repeated. Only her. Trust no. Our heads snapped toward the sound simultaneously. Headlights swept across the fog, illuminating the lighthouse in harsh, white beams. They found us, David whispered, fear stripping years from his face. Would you trust him? What would you do? Comment below. The black SUV skidded to a halt 20 yards away, tires spitting gravel. David grabbed my arm, his fingers digging into my flesh. Take the drive and run.
Now.
But They'll kill us both. Go. 4 men emerged from the vehicle. No uniforms. No badges. Just dark clothing and purposeful movements. FBI. Don't move, one of them shouted. David's eyes widened. They're not FBI. Run. He shoved me toward the path that wound behind the lighthouse. My feet moved before my brain caught up, survival instinct overriding confusion. I clutched the USB drive and sprinted down the narrow trail, rocks and exposed roots threatening to trip me in the darkness. Behind me, shouts erupted. A scuffle. David's voice calling out something I couldn't understand. The path forked. Left led to the shoreline, right to the parking lot. I veered right, gasping for breath, the cold air burning my lungs. My car sat alone in the gravel lot. I fumbled with my keys, hands shaking so violently I dropped them twice before managing to unlock the door. The engine roared to life. I threw the car into reverse, tires spinning against loose gravel before catching. Through the windshield, I could see figures running toward me, silhouettes against the lighthouse backdrop. I slammed the gear shift into drive and floored the accelerator. The car leaped forward, headlights bouncing wildly as I swerved onto the access road. In my rearview mirror, a flash of movement caught my eye. 2 men dragging a struggling figure toward the SUV. David's face, illuminated briefly in the red glow of taillights. His eyes found mine in the mirror for one impossible moment before distance swallowed him. The narrow coastal road twisted ahead, fog reducing visibility to mere yards. I drove by instinct, by memory, hands locked on the steering wheel at 10 and 2, just as David had taught me during a winter storm our first year here. My mind raced faster than the speedometer. If they weren't FBI, who were they? If David was telling the truth, I held evidence that could bring down powerful people. If he was lying, the USB drive sat heavy in my pocket, pressing against my thigh like a burning coal. Headlights appeared behind me, gaining ground on the straightaway. The SUV. Coming fast. I took the turn toward Camden instead of Freeport. Away from home. Away from anywhere they might expect me to go. The road narrowed further, hugging the coastline, guardrails the only barrier between asphalt and 30-foot drops to rocky shores. The SUV closed the gap. 50 yards.
40.
30. A dirt access road appeared on my right, a maintenance path for the power lines that cut through the forest. I wrenched the wheel without slowing, my sedan bouncing violently as it left pavement for rough terrain. Low branches scraped the roof and sides. I killed my headlights, driving by moonlight filtering through trees, praying the larger SUV wouldn't follow. Couldn't follow. The gamble paid off. The SUV roared past the turnoff, continuing down the main road. I drove deeper into the forest, following the maintenance path until it widened into a small clearing. Cut the engine. Sat in total darkness, heart hammering so loudly I feared it might give away my position. Minutes stretched into an hour. No headlights. No pursuers. Just the tick of the cooling engine and my ragged breathing. When my phone showed 3:17 a.m., I finally allowed myself to believe I'd escaped. For now. First light found me parked behind a trucker's diner 50 miles inland. Eyes gritty from fear and exhaustion. The USB drive now transferred to my bra, the most secure place I could think to hide it. I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror, a woman I barely recognized. Hair wild, eyes hollow, face pale. Portland FBI office. I whispered to myself. Agent Jennifer Morris. I had to decide. Trust David and deliver the drive? Go to the police instead? Throw the damned thing into the ocean and run? I started the car. Whatever truth waited at the end of this road, I would face it. For 15 years, I'd loved a man who might have been a lie. Now I needed to know which parts, if any, had been real. What I would discover in the next 24 hours would shatter every certainty I'd ever held about love, trust, and the man I married. The Portland FBI field office occupied the 5th floor of a glass and steel federal building downtown. I clutched the USB drive in my palm as I approached the security desk, my rehearsed lines evaporating under the guard's scrutiny. I need to see Agent Jennifer Morrison. It's urgent. 40 minutes and 2 security screenings later, I sat in a windowless conference room. The walls held no art, just a government seal and a map of Maine divided into jurisdictions. The table, institutional gray metal, reflected the harsh fluorescent lighting. A woman entered, mid-40s, sharp bob haircut, navy pantsuit. Her expression revealed nothing as she extended her hand. Mrs. Patterson, I'm Special Agent Morrison. You said this was urgent. No recognition in her eyes. If David truly worked with her, she hid it well. I placed the drive on the table between us. My husband gave me this last night. Her eyebrow lifted slightly. Your husband? David Patterson. Yes. Mrs. Patterson, your husband died in a boating accident several days ago. I read the report myself. I leaned forward. He's alive. I met with him last night at Pemaquid Point Lighthouse. He gave me this drive and told me to bring it specifically to you. Agent Morrison's posture shifted subtly. And what did he tell you was on this drive? Evidence. About his accounting firm laundering money. He said he's been working undercover with you for 2 years. Mrs. Patterson, please call me Sarah. Sarah, I understand you've experienced a tremendous shock and loss. He's not dead. My voice rose. I saw him. I touched him. Men in an SUV came after us. They took him. Morrison's eyes narrowed. Men who claimed to be FBI? I nodded. May I? She gestured to the drive. She inserted the drive into her laptop, typing rapidly. Her expression remained neutral as files populated the screen. Then a small crease formed between her eyebrows. Sarah, when exactly did your husband first tell you he was working with the FBI? Last night. He said he couldn't tell me before because it would put me in danger. I see. More typing. More frowns. And he specifically mentioned money laundering at his firm?
Yes.
He said he discovered it and reported it to you. Morrison turned the laptop toward me. The screen showed spreadsheets, bank transfers, account numbers. Do you know what these are? I shook my head. These are records of embezzlement, Sarah. Client funds transferred to offshore accounts. Over $2 million diverted over the past 3 years. My stomach dropped. So he was right. The firm was dirty. The firm wasn't dirty, Sarah. These transfers were executed using your husband's credentials. His passwords. His authorization codes. That's impossible. The evidence is quite clear. Her voice softened. Your husband wasn't working for us, Sarah. We've been investigating him. The room tilted slightly.
No,
He said. The FBI doesn't work that way. We don't recruit random civilians for years-long undercover operations. We especially don't let them stage their own deaths. Then what happened to his boat? My voice sounded distant to my own ears. The explosion was real. But our investigation suggests your husband planned it himself. To fake his death and escape prosecution. That makes no sense. If he wanted to disappear, why contact me? Why give me evidence against himself? Morrison hesitated. There's more on this drive than financial records. She clicked through several files. Images appeared, David with another man on a dock. Security camera footage of cash exchanges. A blueprint of what looked like a small cabin. Your husband had an accomplice. Marcus Webb. Navy buddy, correct? I nodded numbly. The plan appears to have been for both of them to fake their deaths in the explosion, escape with the money, and disappear to Costa Rica. They purchased property there 6 months ago. The room spun faster. But something went wrong, Morrison continued. Based on these files and what we recovered from the scene, Marcus actually died in the explosion. It wasn't supposed to happen. Your husband survived, but lost his partner and most of the stolen cash in the process. So, when he contacted me, he was desperate. He needed help retrieving the remaining evidence and funds.
He was using you, Sarah.
Using me. The words landed like physical blows. Where is he now? We don't know yet. But this drive gives us enough to. The door opened. Another agent leaned in, whispered something. Morrison nodded. We just received word. A man matching your husband's description was apprehended trying to cross into Canada at a remote checkpoint in northern Maine. He had $240,000 cash in his vehicle. I want to see him. That's not possible right now. He's my husband. He's a federal suspect in custody. Morrison stood, her eyes softening. Sarah, the man you met at the lighthouse wasn't an undercover hero. He stole from his clients, faked his death, let you suffer, then tried to use your trust to help him escape. Trust no one, I whispered, David's warning echoing with new meaning. Morrison nodded solemnly.
He was right about that.
But for all the wrong reasons. The drive back to Freeport stretched interminably. Familiar landmarks, the Red Roof Diner, the antique barn, the crooked pine tree bent by coastal winds, all looked like props now. Set dressing for a life that had never been real. Agent Morrison's parting words rattled in my head. We'll need your statement tomorrow. For now, go home. Process this. Call someone to stay with you if you can. But who could I call? Who could possibly understand this? I pulled into our driveway, my driveway, as sunset painted the sky in colors that would normally make me reach for my camera. Today, they were just smears of light, meaningless. The house key felt foreign in my hand. 3 days since the accident. 1 day since the funeral. A lifetime since I'd been the woman who believed in her husband. The funeral flowers greeted me, lilies, roses, carnations in solemn arrangements. Cards expressing condolences for a death that never happened. Sympathy for a lie. On the mantel, our wedding photo smiled back at me. David in his tailored suit, me in ivory lace, both of us sun-kissed from the outdoor ceremony. 15 years ago. Had he been planning this even then? How long had I been a contingency in his escape plan? Crash. The photo landed in the trash bin, glass cracking across his face. The sound felt good. Cleansing. I moved through the house methodically. His clothing from the closet. Thud. Into garbage bags. His books from the shelves. Thump. Into boxes for donation. His presence from my life. Not so easily discarded. In his desk drawer, beneath tax documents, I found a passport I'd never seen before. Different name. David's photo. Issued 8 months ago. In the garage, behind paint cans, a waterproof container holding $10,000 cash. In the attic, a burner phone tucked inside an old boot. The evidence of his deception multiplied with each step I took through our shared space. My hands trembled as realization struck. I'd never really known him at all. I stood before the bathroom mirror, a stranger staring back. The woman who'd cried at his funeral. Who'd defended him to doubting friends. Who'd believed his ridiculous story at the lighthouse because she couldn't bear the alternative. You idiot, I whispered to my reflection. The wedding ring caught the light, platinum band, channel set diamonds, inscribed with "Forever Yours." The irony burned. I twisted it off. My finger beneath looked pale, indented from 15 years of metal against skin. I placed the ring on the counter, the soft clink against marble surprisingly final. The house phone startled me. Marcus's wife, Susan, her voice tear-stained. Sarah? I needed to check on you. The wife of David's dead accomplice. Another victim in this scheme. Did you know? The question escaped before I could stop it. A long pause.
About what?
About what they were planning. Her breath caught. What do you mean? The FBI has David in custody, Susan. They know everything. About the embezzlement. About Marcus. About Costa Rica. Silence stretched between us, then a choked sob. I found receipts. For property somewhere tropical. I confronted Marcus, but he said it was an investment surprise for our anniversary. I wanted to believe him. We both had. What happens now? She asked. The question hung in air thick with shared betrayal. What happens when the foundation of your life reveals itself as sand? We rebuild, I said, surprising myself with the strength in my voice. We see clearly now. After we hung up, I walked to the deck overlooking the ocean. The same waves that had supposedly claimed David now rolled peacefully against the shore. The same stars he'd navigated by now watched impassively as I stood alone. The signs had always been there. The password changes. The unexplained absences. The safe deposit box. I'd interpreted them through the lens of trust, of love. Never again. The night air filled my lungs, cold and clarifying. Tomorrow would bring FBI interviews, lawyer consultations, financial investigations. Tonight was for mourning. Not the man I'd buried, but the marriage I'd believed in. The woman who entered that house again would be different. Wiser. Stronger. Alone, but finally free from lies. The spring sun warmed my face as I walked along the rocky shore toward Pemaquid Point Lighthouse. The white tower stood against blue sky, no longer a symbol of deception, but of warning, of guidance, of light cutting through darkness. My gallery had reopened last month. New paintings lined the walls, my own work now, landscapes of coastal Maine seen through clearer eyes. The certified letter had arrived yesterday. Federal prison return address. David's handwriting. I'd placed it unopened in my fireplace. Watched the edges curl and blacken. Some words didn't deserve to be read. Some voices didn't deserve to be heard. The trial had lasted 2 weeks. 27 clients testified about investments that vanished. David never once looked at me from the defendant's table. His lawyer blamed Marcus for everything. A dead man couldn't defend himself. The jury needed only 4 hours to reach their verdict. 15 years. 1 for each year of our marriage. Poetic symmetry that brought no joy, only closure. I climbed the lighthouse steps, something I'd never done before. From the top, I could see for miles, islands dotting the horizon, fishing boats returning to harbor, life continuing its steady rhythm. Trust no one, he had warned, his final manipulation. Trust yourself. I had learned my first freedom. I descended the stairs and walked toward my new beginning, step by certain step. If this journey through deception and discovery resonated with you, pull up a chair at our porch and subscribe. Every truth has its price, and some stories are just beginning. Tomorrow, we'll meet a woman who found a key that opened more than just a forgotten door.